KUTX at home, Taylor Wallace here with you, and I am stoked for this interview. I've been waiting for it for a long time. Our guests today have been in Studio 1A last year and rocked Studio 1A last year. Their debut album, Dogrel, won was named Rough Trade's Album of the Year, BBC Radio 6's Album of the Year, nominated for a Mercury Prize, nominated for the Choice Music Prize, which is awarded to an album coming out of either Northern Ireland or the Republic of Ireland. I'm so excited today to be joined by Carlos O'Connell of Fontaines D.C. Carlos, hi.
Hello, Taylor. How are you?
I'm well. It is so it's 11:30 here in Austin, Texas, and it's 6:30 for you in Paris.
It is 6:30 in Paris. Yes.
And you were saying that you're in Paris. One of the other members is in Paris, and y'all are waiting for the rest of y'all to join y'all in Paris later this week. Yeah.
That's it. Yes. I was just with Diego there, the bass player in the band. Just walked around. Who I hadn't seen I saw him yesterday for the first time in months. And everyone's coming over this weekend, I think. And we're
That's
just
nice.
doing all this kind of promotional stuff over here for a week.
Well, that's cool. And you were saying that you've been doing a lot of traveling recently, and a lot of y'all have all kind of been traveling all over the place. And per the law back home for y'all in Dublin, y'all have to quarantine for 2 weeks because y'all have been traveling and are going from having spent pretty much all of your time together since 2013 to not seeing each other for months to now getting to hold up together in a house. How excited are you?
I think it'll be good. We'll be there with everyone for 2 weeks. I'm sure by the end of the 2 weeks, I'll be saying a different thing. But I'm looking forward to having that dynamic again of being on top of each other for a while. Yeah, it's great to see everyone again.
Yeah,
it's strange. Even you can be the closest of friends, and then it's so long since you see each other, you don't kind of even know where to begin. You know.
Well, then you see friends, like I have friends I haven't seen in years, and then you just pick up and it's like you've been talking to each other every day since the last time you saw them.
See what happens.
So A Hero's Death is out now. It came out at the end of July, but y'all were writing this album while y'all were touring Dogrel. And I remember my now boyfriend at the time, we were in Portland when y'all were playing in Austin, but we're such big fans that we made sure to go see y'all in Portland at Mississippi Studios. And y'all started with A Hero's Death. And we were like, what is this song? I've never heard this song. So what was it like getting to write, record, and also kind of play some new material all at the same time while touring this big album?
It was kind of like, I suppose we didn't stop writing. You know, when we finished Dogrel, we went into the studio quite soon after finishing the writing stuff. And as soon as we finished in the studio, we started writing again, you know. And so I think actually A Hero's Death was written straight after Dogrel was recorded back in, 2018. And then we kept going through the rest of 2018, into 2019, and we wrote a lot, bits of ideas on the road, things down on paper. And then, but most of the work was done in Dublin while we were off the road. We always had 3 days a week off the road during the summer last year. And we instead of going back home and resting, we just go into our studio and write every day, which was good for our heads and the band, but terrible for our romantic relationships at the time.
I can imagine. That's really, really rough. I mean, my husband went on a European tour for 10 days last year, and I was just like, this is awful.
Yeah. So
I mean, great for him, but I was like,
you can imagine if he came back home and he said, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to spend these days with you. I'm just going to go write music with the band that I spent every single day of my life with.
Oh, man.
So there was a lot of sacrifice involved in that record. But it was necessary for us to do it.
Yeah. So it's really interesting and cool that I'm getting to talk to you as a guitarist, and getting to talk to you about Fontaines and the story and kind of y'all's discography through the lens of you being a guitarist. And we were talking about before the interview, there's like the lyrical content of Fontaines DC has been pretty consistent, and by that I mean awesome. But
Mm.
the guitar, it's like the music, the sonic part of it has really evolved since like your first singles back in 2017, like Winter in the Sun, that is it's very like almost surf rocky, and then you get to Dogrel, which is very high energy too, but then you get to A Hero's Death and it's very sparse, but still the guitar parts are still very, very front and center. So can you talk about what that arc has been like for you and Curly?
Yeah, it's been yeah, I suppose at the very start of the band was kind of like a, rock and roll, 50s rock and roll punk band. So there was very specific kind of guitar things that you had to do. And that was fun, and it was, something that we found quite it was almost like we really enjoyed the simplicity of it, and the kind of like how easy it was to create like a musical bed for the lyrics to come through. And it was also kind of going a bit against what was going around Dublin at the time with this kind of neo soul thing that was going on, where everyone was just playing way too many notes all the time. So we liked this kind of simplicity of just downstrokes and a guitar, really, really bright, and and the other guitar being real loud and having a guitar solo here and there, a bit jangly, surfy stuff. And the surf kind of influence I think carried through the whole thing, until now. I think there's always a little bit of surf in all the tunes, the way the guitars are done and stuff. But yeah, I suppose with all these years, our influences have changed and evolved, and we carry all the ones that we had before with us, and we keep adding new ones. And then in the playing itself, for me and Curly, I think we, more than getting better at guitar, we've got more confident at it. What I've been thinking a lot is, how silence requires confidence, and we try to, to really be able to sit back and not play anything when it wasn't necessary, and so that's how this album kind of came to be in the approach to the guitars. It was just, we were allowing for a lot more space, and I don't know, I suppose the influences that changed, for this record, we got really, really into Lee Hazelwood and the Beach Boys, and the way they approached, each musical part, which is kind of like a, strong melodic idea that doesn't have to take over the entire spectrum of the sound. And then a big influence as well was Roland S. Howard from The Birthday Party, who, we both, me and Curly, think is one of the most important guitar players that there has been. And, what he did is, I think he took a lot of this kind of like classic arrangement style of, those kind of American songwriters, and like Lee Hazelwood, and this kind of cowboy swag to the parts. And he just kind of like brought this insane amount of darkness to the approach to it, and a lot of noise, and a very visceral style of playing. I think the merge of those two worlds of like, just juxtaposition between something that's kind of like gentle and very, I suppose, like very, in a way, rational, very clever, the way things are arranged and that kind of music, very clever. And juxtaposing that with this kind of just raw emotion of darkness, of like just that is completely out of control, is something amazing, and I think we're trying to figure that out. I think the more we do play music, you figure out that you do just need to, when you bring everything to the front all the time and you just put into one idea, that things seem to be very shallow, and it's on, it's in the space between one end of the emotional spectrum and the other one. Within that space that you find the depth of things, and I think in music that's a massive thing.
Well, and I mean, the lyrics are always such full of depth, and it's nice to hear that like echoed through the rest of the instrumentation too, with all of your songs. Like the first track on A Hero's Death, I Don't Belong, which my husband and I were at the beach when the day that the album came out, so we're like driving around the sunny Texas beach, and we're like, oh, the new Fontaines D.C. album's out, and then I Don't Belong comes out, which is a dark song but lyrically and sonically, and it was such a cool juxtaposition, and it's like, this is Yeah, this is great, and I love that that song is just like about the double-edged sword of loneliness.
Mm.
And I'm wondering, the mood and the both the sonic tone and the mood and the lyrics of that song, was that at all inspired by y'all being on tour constantly, spending your off time writing more music?
Yeah, mostly. I think when we were on tour, at the start it was great, exciting, and everything, and it's still always, all the shows were always great. But there was we went through a very dark period in our heads, and we got very distant from each other, and we were just not having a great time most of the time, and probably drinking way too much and not sleeping enough. And so I suppose we started listening to a lot darker music and stuff that was just visceral and energetic. Like I got very into stuff like Suicide and Cabaret Voltaire, and as I said, Roland S. Howard was just like constant throughout the year. Everything he's done with These Immortal Souls and all of his solo stuff. And I suppose, when you feel a certain way, you usually tend to surround yourself with things that represent that. And then if you make art, I think you just try to put it out in your art as well. So all of those things influence each other. Your mood influences what you listen to, and what you listen to influences what you're going to write.
Certainly. So
Yeah.
has COVID and like not having the opportunity to tour and kind of being able to focus on yourselves again, has that offered mental reprieve?
Absolutely. I think it was completely crucial for us to have this break and to have such an extreme setting for it, where you had no other option but to just take it easy and be indoors. And you can't just go out and long benders or anything. You just have to relax and sit down with your thoughts. And when you start looking at the last year in a different way, and you start seeing all the things you were doing wrong and why it was so difficult, and how you could do it again in a better way, so I think we're all in a like way better place now after all these months. It's definitely now the point where we're kind of tired of the rest, and we want to start doing something together again.
Well, it's great that y'all are going to be holed up together for 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And we've all been writing individually. And for me personally, it's getting to a point where, I found it very refreshing writing for myself without any sort of kind of like, pressure of the band. Because, before anything happened with the band, we just wrote for ourselves. And then now there's a demand. So everything you do with the band is kind of going to end up being somewhere, or, yeah, it needs to be kind of like, it's a different approach, I suppose. So when you're just at home and you have loads of time, when you're just writing music for no reason, just because you need to do it, it feels really, really good, and it was refreshing to have that again. But now I'm getting to the point where I kind of need to do something with all this music, because it's all just sitting on shelves, and I'm starting to like, not really see the point of doing it anymore, because how many more shelves am I going to like fill with this music,
So I'm curious, when I was doing some like digger deeping on y'all, your big first international tour was I don't know if in part or largely or whatever funded by the Irish Arts Council, which to us Americans is a total foreign concept about like your country actually like supporting you as a musician and finding appreciating it. So what was that process like? And is that like them funding touring and helping in that way? Is that a common thing? Was that an easy thing to do? Like this is such a foreign concept to us.
Yeah, they're amazing. Like the Irish, like that, the Arts Council have been amazing to us. They've been really, really good, and it's not something they gave out all the time, or to everyone and stuff. But it does come when you need it. When a band, to get to the next step of things, you have to get to a certain level to be able to apply for it. But I think once you get to that level, you can get to that level without funding. But to get to the level after that, you do need some sort of funding from someone, and the Irish government have been doing that for many years, and they've been supporting us from the point of going to maybe a little bit before South by Southwest 2018, or is it 2018 or 2019? 2018, wasn't it?
What is time anymore?
Yeah, I actually can't even remember. No, it was 2019. I don't know. Forget about it. Anyways, when we did South by Southwest, just before that, they started kind of giving us a hand, and it's it's the what you need. You get like whatever is needed to do it. And it's not a luxury. It's not luxurious. They're not gonna but it allows you to do it. And it's a really brilliant thing that they've done, and they've helped a lot of bands throughout the years.
Yeah,
reach new.
it's amazing that y'all have that resource
Yeah, no, it's
instead of
really
having
brilliant.
to
We
rely on the
couldn't.
market.
There's a lot of things we wouldn't have been able to do without that. I mean, I don't think we'd be in this position if it wasn't for that help in the early days.
It's really awesome.
Mm.
And I know like years and years ago, y'all put out a collection, two poetry collections. And I mention it, because one of them was inspired by the Beats. And like you and I were talking about before the interview, I'm a huge Beats fan. I wrote my senior thesis on Ginsberg and the theme of madness and his thing. And the second one focused a lot more on like inspirations from like Joyce and Yeats and stuff, whom I also love. The Geyers, man. Have y'all ever thought about going back to those poems and turning them into songs? Almost like Kurt Cobain, Bill Burroughs style, maybe?
I actually never thought about revisiting those poems in a new setting. No, I never thought about that. But I do think about doing something like that again together. I really liked the DIY nature of it, and how much it drove us to write more, to create a little platform for ourselves from which to read our poems.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very special time, and it was definitely a very important time for the band to do what it's done. I kind of found it. There was a little poetry scene at the time in Dublin, but we did that completely independently from that, because we didn't know how to get involved with the scene, and we're like, well, we don't need to get involved with the scene. We'll just do our own scene.
Do it for yourselves.
And then it was, felt so good to do that for ourselves, and in our own way, that a lot of the things we did with the band were influenced by that kind of mentality. And a lot of the way we started writing music had to do with writing so much poetry in those days. And even just the themes and stuff, and the influences, the kind of like the fast pace of beat poetry, the kind of that again, that kind of just immediate nature of it. And then having explored all of these Irish gods, we brought in this kind of like new sense of Irishness into our day-to-day lives. So that combination of those two things was definitely massive in establishing the sound of our first record, I think.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm just in awe of that answer. Sorry. Kind of bringing it back to Ireland, I'm curious, y'all being in Dublin, which is in the Republic of Ireland, how back when people could tour and play shows, how did Brexit affect y'all's ability to just play like in Belfast and then play in just Northern Ireland?
Well, Brexit, it still hasn't done anything. Like, I mean,
Okay.
there still hasn't been any sort of change in the way people travel in and out of the UK, or working there. You still work in the UK the same way you work in Germany as a band, touring through it. Like, you have whatever taxes each country has, but it's the same. You don't have to get visas or anything for the UK yet.
Oh,
they haven't
that's cool.
They haven't done anything yet. It's been years. I mean, when did that start? 2016, and it's been years of that, and there's still nothing. There's been more change into how people travel in and out of the UK with coronavirus than with Brexit.
Cool. Okay. I learned a whole lot about touring in the UK or in Europe just now.
Yeah, that's as of now. I don't know how things will change, but I think it's a touchy thing with the Northern Ireland, because I mean, there's been a lot of trouble with that in the past, and those borders, and I don't think it's something anyone should be touching, especially not in the way of closing it, because that would be just going back in history. So I just hope that whatever happens with that, the dynamic between the North and the Republic stays the same as is now, because if it goes backwards, would be really bad.
Yeah, for sure. I lost my train of thought just now. Sorry. um, I'm so sorry.
Brexit, Northern Ireland, the Republic, Yates.
Sitting here with Carlos O'Connell, one of the guitarists of Fontaines D.C, and talking about how all of the members have been scattered. All the members have been writing their own music individually, coming together to quarantine for 2 weeks when y'all get back together. Is that under the assumption that what y'all are going to be doing in the 2 weeks is going to lead to the next album and is going to kind of glue together all of these influences and other music that y'all have been writing separately?
I hope in some sort of way it's the start of that. Yeah, I mean, it's a strange time in the sense we've released an album this year that's been doing great, but we haven't played it once, and I feel strange to move away from it or move on from it when we still haven't explored it enough. I don't think. But then at the same time, it's like, what else is there to do? Or as a band right now, you can do two things: either write or play live, and we're not going to be playing live, so I think we need to write, but it's going to be a strange place to write from when we haven't. I don't know. It just feels like we haven't done enough with that second album yet. But
Yeah,
it is a kind of like bit of a dream. I don't know if we'll be able to do it, but to release another album next year, I really would love to have released 3 records in 3 years. I don't think enough people do that these days, of just releasing music constantly, I really want to do that for next year, but who knows? There's absolutely no plan for it, and we really haven't been together since we released the second record, so we haven't been writing together. But let's see how everything we've done individually works.
Wow. I mean, maybe this is a dumb question, but when things get back to whatever the post new normal is going to be, and touring is a thing again, I assume y'all are gonna do a tour, A Hero's Death?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's a tour booked for A Hero's Death for next year in Europe and the UK. There's nothing in the States because it's impossible to even try to book a show for next year, to even plan it. You just can't do it. But and those shows are on sale, and most of them are sold out, which is amazing. But
congratulations, that's really awesome.
It is great, but I'm kind of like, I just hope they will happen, those shows, So I don't know. It's hard to know, but maybe if they don't happen, maybe we'll be in a position where the next tour will be touring 2 records that no one's heard live before. I don't know.
I mean, Father John Misty always says he writes like 4 albums ahead, so and then just like
probably a good idea as well. Yeah.
Well, I want to end with a dumb question, just because I can't help myself. So, knowing that y'all are Fontaines D.C, named after Johnny Fontaine of The Godfather, and I'm only asking this because it's directly related to this character. When y'all got the offer to get signed with Partisan Records, did y'all just look at each other and say, "It's an offer we can't refuse"?
We actually didn't. I don't know how we didn't do that. No one thought about that. No. Yeah, I wish that moment happened, actually.
I was like, I have to ask. Well, Carlos, thank you so much. Oh, sorry, what?
I was just going to say, I hope we get offered something else again so we can do
that. Make a note of it.
Yeah.
Carlos, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Carlos O'Connell, one of the guitarists of Fontaines D.C. A Hero's Death is out now. And man, I can't wait till y'all get to come back to the States so we can see you in person and see the record perform live.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been great. Really, really nice. Thanks for the chat.